The morning sky over Seoul turned black at exactly 9:47 a.m. Admiral Kung Ho was drinking his coffee when the first shadow fell across his office window. He looked up from his reports and saw something that made his blood freeze. Ships. Massive. Ships that stretched across the horizon. Like floating mountains. The alien vessels were nothing like the sleek designs from movies. These looked like giant stones carved with strange patterns. They hung in the air without making any sound. Number. Engines roaring. No wind from their movement. Just silent, impossible masses that blocked out the sun. Kuncho grabbed his phone and called the defense ministry. The line was already busy. Every phone in the building was ringing. Every screen showed the same impossible sight. The ships were not just over Seoul. They were over every major city on Earth. In the mountains north of the city, Captain Hannah was training her Special Forces unit when the darkness came. Her soldiers stopped their exercises and stared up at the sky. The forest around them grew quiet. Even the birds stopped singing. "What are those things?" asked Dongmin, the unit's medic. He was a calm man who never got excited about anything, but now his voice shook. "I don't know," Hannah said. She pulled out her radio and tried to contact headquarters. Only static came back. Every frequency was dead. Woojin, their engineer, was already setting up his equipment. His hands moved quickly over the instruments. "I'm getting massive electromagnetic interference," he said. "These things are jamming everything." Yuna, their communications specialist, worked beside him with her laptop. "Internet is down. Satellites are down. Everything is down." The ships hung in the sky for 3 hours. People came out of their homes and offices to stare up at them. Some took pictures with their phones, but the cameras would not work properly. Some people prayed, others cried, most just stood and watched. Then the ships began to move. They descended slowly, like giant elevators coming down from heaven. As they got closer, people could see details on their surfaces. The stone-like material was covered in symbols that seemed to move and change. Strange lights pulsed along grooves cut deep into the holes. The first ship landed in the center of Seoul, crushing several city blocks under its weight. The ground shook like an earthquake. Windows broke for miles around. Car alarms went off everywhere, but then quickly died as the electromagnetic interference grew stronger. Similar landings happened around the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Every major city received its own massive visitor from Captain Hannah's position in the mountains. She could see smoke rising from Seoul. The ship had landed on top of the government district. She knew thousands of people had just died, crushed under the alien vessel. "We need to get closer," she told her team. "We need to see what these things want." But before they could move, the ships began to open. Huge sections of the hull split apart like flower petals. Ramps extended down to touch the ground. And from inside the ships came the masters. They were not what anyone expected. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall. Their skin looked like dark green leather, covered in scales. They had long arms that ended in hands with too many fingers. Their heads were large and shaped like triangles, with yellow eyes that glowed in the dim light. But the most frightening thing about them was how they moved. They walked with complete confidence, like they owned everything they saw. The aliens wore no armor, but they carried weapons that looked like metal staffs. When they pointed these staffs at buildings, bright beams of light shot out. The buildings simply disappeared, not destroyed, not blown up. They just stopped existing, leaving only empty spaces where they used to be. In Seoul. Admiral Kung Ho watched from his office as the aliens marched through the streets. People ran away from them, but the aliens did not chase. They just walked forward, destroying anything in their path. Military vehicles rushed toward them, but the weapons had no effect. Bullets bounced off their scaly skin. Tank shells exploded harmlessly against some kind of invisible barrier around each alien. One of the creatures stopped in front of the Defense Ministry building. It raised its weapon toward Kung Ho's window. The Admiral dove behind his desk, just as the wall disappeared. When he looked up, half of his office was gone. The alien stood in the new opening, looking down at him. The creature spoke, but not with its mouth. The words appeared directly in Kel-ho's mind, in perfect Korean. We'll gather your leaders. You will bring them to us. You have 1 hour. Then, it turned and walked away, leaving Kyung-ho alone in his destroyed office. Around the world, the same message was delivered to every government. Military bases were destroyed. Weapons were taken away or simply vaporized. Any group that tried to fight back was eliminated instantly, Captain. Hannah and her team watched through binoculars as alien patrols moved through the countryside. The creatures seemed to know exactly where to find every military unit, every police station, every government facility. How do they know where everything is? Dongman asked. They've been watching us, Hannah said, probably for years. They know everything about us. The aliens herded world leaders into large gathering areas near each landed ship. President's prime, ministers, generals, anyone with authority was forced to stand before these towering creatures. The alien commander was larger than the others. Its scales were darker, almost black. When it spoke, its mental voice reached every human on Earth at the same time. You are now property of the Veltheran Empire. Your weapons are gone. Your governments are ended. You will work for us. You will serve us. You will obey us without question. Your species will be divided into groups. The strong will perform physical labor. The intelligent will maintain your technology for our use. The weak will be processed for biological material. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities. Any disobedience will result in death. You have been conquered. Accept this reality. Admiral Kung-ho, standing with other military leaders in Seoul's Central Plaza, felt his heart sink. The aliens' words were not a threat. They were a simple statement of fact. Humanity had been defeated without even fighting a real battle. The Veltherans began organizing immediately. They separated humans into groups using some kind of scanning device. Families were split apart. Children were taken from parents. The old and sick were led away to areas where no one saw them again. Captain Hannah watched from her hiding place as alien patrols moved through her sector. Her small team was all that remained of her unit. Maybe all that remained of any free human military force. What do we do now? Yuna asked. Hannah looked at her soldiers. These were good people, brave people. They deserved better than slavery or death. We survive, she said. We watch, we learn, and we wait for our chance. But as the alien ships settled into their positions around the world, and as millions of humans were marched into processing centers, that chance seemed very far away. The Veltherans had won. Humanity had lost. The age of human masters was over. 6 months had passed since the ships arrived. Dr. Sungmin woke up in his small concrete cell at exactly 5:30 a.m., just like every day since his capture. The Veltherans had turned the old university into a research facility. Human scientists worked here now, but not by choice. Sung-min was one of the lucky ones. The aliens needed his knowledge of human technology. Many of his colleagues had been sent to the labor camps or worse. He tried not to think about what happened to those who were too old or too sick to work. The facility was cold and gray. Veltheran guards stood at every door, their yellow eyes watching everything. They never spoke to the humans unless giving orders. To them, humans were just smart animals who could operate computers. Get up, work time, said the guard outside Sungmin's cell. The alien's voice entered his mind like ice water. After 6 months, he still hated the feeling of their mental communication. Sungmin put on his work clothes and walked to the laboratory. 20 other human scientists were already there, hunched over their computers and equipment. They all looked tired, they all looked defeated. But Sungmin was not defeated. He just looked that way. Every day the Veltherans gave them human technology to study. Computers, phones, medical equipment, weapons. They wanted to understand everything about human civilization. They planned to use this knowledge to control other worlds they would conquer next. What the aliens did not know was that Sungmin was studying them too. While he worked on their assignments, he watched them carefully. He noticed things. Important things. The Veltherans breathed differently than humans. Their lungs worked harder in Earth's atmosphere. They needed special breathing masks when they worked for long periods. They ate only certain types of food. It food that came from their ships. It would not touch anything that grew on Earth, not even after testing it. Most interesting of all, they seemed to get sick easily. Several guards had been replaced over the months. When Su Min asked why, another scientist whispered that they had developed strange rashes and breathing problems. Their immune systems are weak, Su Min thought to himself. They have no resistance to Earth diseases. He began keeping notes, hidden in his computer code where the aliens would not find them. Every weakness he observed, every pattern he noticed, every detail that might be useful someday. In Camp 7, located in what used to be Busan, former soldier J1 carried steel beams under the hot sun. The Veltharans were building something massive here, a structure that reached toward the sky. Like a twisted tower, J1's hands were bloody from the work. His back ached constantly, but his mind was sharp. He watched everything around him. The other workers were tired and hopeless. They did their jobs and tried to survive each day. But some, like J1, still had fight left in them. At night, in the crowded sleeping barracks, he whispered to the others. "Watch the guards," he said. "Count them. Learn their patterns. Notice when they change shifts. What's the point?" Asked an older man named Daeho. "We can't fight them. They're too strong." "Maybe," J1 said, "but they're not gods. They have schedules. They have routines. They make mistakes." During the day, J1 began small acts of sabotage. Nothing obvious. A bolt loosened here, a wire disconnected there, equipment that would fail after a few days. Instead of working perfectly, the aliens noticed the problems but blamed human stupidity. They never suspected deliberate action. In the alien food processing center, Xuan's sister Minyoung worked with hundreds of other humans. Their job was to prepare the special foods that came from the Veltharan ships. The aliens were very particular about their meals. Minyoung was quiet and careful. She followed all the rules perfectly. The guards trusted her because she never caused trouble. But Minyoung was mapping everything. She learned which foods the aliens ate most often. She discovered which preparation areas had the least security. She found out that the Veltharans tested their food for poison, but only for toxins they knew about. They're testing for their own poisons, she realized, not for Earth's diseases. Like her brother, Minyoung began to plan. In the communication center in Seoul, young hacker Bioram worked on Veltharan computer systems. The aliens had captured her because of her skills with human networks. Now they forced her to help them understand Earth's internet and communication satellites. Bioram hated every moment of it. But she was learning things too. The Veltharan computer systems were advanced but not perfect. They had security holes, weak points that human hackers could exploit. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they did not guard against human ingenuity. They thought humans were too primitive to understand their technology. They were wrong. Barm discovered that the Veltharan network used quantum encryption, but it had blind spots, places where human-built systems could slip through undetected. She began testing these weaknesses carefully, very carefully. One mistake would mean death, but every small success taught her more about their systems. About their weaknesses, in what used to be the government district, Commander Nari worked in the Veltharan Administrative Center. She had been a high-ranking military officer before the conquest. Now she filed reports and managed human work assignments. The aliens kept her alive because she understood human organization. She could help them manage their new slaves more efficiently. Nari did her job well. Too well. The Veltharans began to trust her with more important information. She learned about their long-term plans for Earth. They intended to change the planet's atmosphere to match their homeworld. They were importing alien plants and animals to replace Earth's ecosystems. Most terrifying of all, they planned to reduce the human population to a more manageable size. Only the most useful humans would be kept alive. The rest would be eliminated once the aliens no longer needed them. They're going to kill us all eventually, Nari realized. We're just temporary tools to them. But Nari also learned something else. The Veltharan Empire was huge, spanning many worlds. But their forces were spread thin. The occupation force on Earth was much smaller than it appeared. Most of their ships were empty. Most of their technology was automated. There were actually very few real Veltheran soldiers on the planet in the mountains. Captain Hannah and her remaining team survived in hidden caves. They moved only at night, avoiding Veltheran patrols. They lived on whatever they could hunt or gathered Dong-Min, treated injuries with makeshift medical supplies. Wu Jin built communication equipment from salvaged parts. Yuna tried to contact other resistance groups around the world. Progress was slow. Most human resistance had been crushed in the first months. But some groups still existed, hidden in remote areas. We're getting signals from Australia, Yuna reported, and something from the Amazon, maybe Africa too. How many people? Hannah asked. Not many. Maybe a few hundred total, scattered across the whole world. It was not much. But it was something. In the hidden network of caves and tunnels, other humans worked quietly. Scientists like Sumin passed information to soldiers, like J1. Workers like Minyoung reported on alien routines to hackers like Bioram. Officers like Nari shared intelligence with resistance leaders like Hannah. The network grew slowly, carefully. The Veltherans did not notice because they did not expect humans to cooperate so effectively to the aliens. Humans were individuals, selfish creatures who would fight each other for scraps. They did not understand that humans could work together even under the worst conditions. This was their first mistake. As the months passed, the resistance learned more. About Veltheran weaknesses, about their technology, about their plans. The aliens thought they had won completely. They grew comfortable, lazy. They stopped watching their human slaves as carefully as they should have. This was their second mistake. Winter was coming. The Veltherans did not like the cold. They spent more time in their heated ships and less time patrolling the camps. For the first time since the conquest, the resistance had room to breathe, to plan, to prepare. The chains of servitude were still tight around humanity's throat. Some humans had begun to work on the locks. The Veltherans had no idea what was coming. Dr. Sunmin stared at the microscope screen in disbelief. After 8 months of secret research, he had finally found it. The key to destroying the Veltarans. It started when he noticed that the alien guards got sick more often during the rainy season. Their scales would develop red patches. They would cough and wheeze through their breathing masks. Some would collapse and need to be carried away. The Veltherans blamed it on Earth's dirty air. They installed better filtration systems in their ships. They gave their soldiers stronger breathing equipment. But they never found the real cause. Sungmin had been collecting samples secretly. Skin cells from guard uniforms, air filters that had been thrown away, even water from puddles where the aliens had walked. What he discovered changed everything. Earth bacteria were attacking the Veltherans, but not in a normal way. The aliens' immune systems could fight off most Earth diseases easily, but when certain bacteria combined with specific electromagnetic frequencies, something deadly happened. The electromagnetic fields that the Veltherans used for their technology created a resonance effect. This resonance weakened their cellular decellularity repair systems. When Earth bacteria attacked during these moments of weakness, the alien immune system could not adapt fast enough. It's like their bodies forget how to heal themselves, Sungmin whispered to himself. But the discovery was not complete yet. He needed to find the right frequency, the right bacteria, the right combination that would work every time he began. Testing in secret, using equipment that the aliens thought he was using for their projects. Every night, after the guards changed shifts, he worked on his real research. Slowly, carefully, he built a weapon that could kill gods. In the construction zone at Camp 7, engineer Wu Jin had made his own breakthrough, while carrying materials for the alien tower. He had been studying their building techniques and power systems. The Veltherans were incredibly advanced, but they had one major weakness. They were too confident in their own superiority. Their planetary defense grid was designed to stop attacks from space. Massive energy weapons, force fields, and detection systems that could destroy anything approaching from outside Earth's atmosphere. But the system had never been designed to handle threats from inside the planet. They built it to keep enemies out, Wujin realized, not to keep enemies in. The defense grid was connected to every major Veltheron installation. Power flowed through underground cables and wireless transmission stations. If someone could access the system from inside, K could turn the aliens' greatest strength against them. Wujin began mapping the power distribution network. Every cable he laid, every connection he made, he memorized. The aliens thought he was just following orders. They did not know he was creating a blueprint for their destruction. During his breaks, he whispered to other workers who had engineering backgrounds. Former electricians, computer technicians, construction managers. People who understood how complex systems worked. Together, they began to understand the alien infrastructure, where the weak points were, how to access the control systems, how to make everything fail at exactly the right moment in the communication. Senator Biorum had finally cracked the Veltheran network security. It took months of careful probing, but she found a way in. The aliens used quantum encryption, but their system had a flaw. It assumed that any attack would come from another advanced civilization using similar technology. It never considered that primitive humans might find completely different ways to break the code. Biorum used techniques that the Veltharans had never seen before. Instead of trying to break their encryption directly, she found ways to slip human-built viruses through gaps in their system architecture. They're expecting a sword fight, she thought. But I'm bringing a poisoned needle. The viruses she created were simple, but effective. They did not try to destroy Veltheron systems. Instead, they gathered information and sent it back to hidden human receivers. Soon, Borum was reading Veltheran communications across the entire planet. She learned about troop movements, supply schedules, and security protocols. She discovered which installations were lightly defended and which ones were critical to their operations. Most importantly, she found the command codes for their entire fleet. The Veltharans changed their codes regularly, but Borum's viruses learned the patterns. Within weeks, she could predict what the new codes would be before the aliens themselves knew. In the food processing center, Min-Yung had completed her own preparation. She understood the alien food supply system completely now. Every step from storage to preparation to distribution, the Veltharans were very careful about food safety, but only according to their own standards. They tested for toxins that existed on their homeworld. They screened for poisons that other advanced species might use. They never thought to look for diseases that came from primitive Earth organisms. Min-Yung had been collecting samples of her own, bacteria from Earth's soil, microorganisms from human saliva, tiny life forms that the aliens had never encountered before. She grew these organisms in hidden containers, feeding them with scraps from the alien kitchen. Some died quickly, others adapted and grew stronger. After months of secret cultivation, she had created several strains of Earth bacteria that could survive in Veltheran food. The aliens' testing equipment would not detect them because they were looking for the wrong things. One meal, Min-Yung thought. That's all I need. One contaminated meal delivered to the right place at the right time. Commander Nari had access to the most sensitive information of all. Working in the administrative center, she saw the aliens. Complete battle plans for Earth and their other conquered worlds. The Veltheran Empire was much weaker than anyone realized. Their massive ships were mostly empty space. Their advanced weapons required enormous amounts of energy. Their soldiers were spread across dozens of planets, with only small garrison forces on each world. On Earth, there were fewer than 10,000 actual Veltheran soldiers. The rest of their apparent strength came from automated systems and psychological warfare. They're like a circus magician, Nari realized. All flash and mirrors. But underneath, there's almost nothing there. She also discovered something else. Crucial. The Veltharans had a rigid command structure. If the top commanders were eliminated, the lower ranks would be paralyzed. They did not know how to think independently or adapt to unexpected situations. Nari began identifying key targets. The alien leaders who made all the important decisions. The critical systems that their entire operation depended on. A sequence of events that would cause maximum disruption. She passed this information to the Resistance through coded messages hidden in routine administrative reports. In the mountains, Captain Hannah received intelligence from all the other Resistance members. Reports from Seung-min about biological weapons, data from Woo-jin about infrastructure weaknesses, network access codes from Biorum, supply schedules from Min-young, target lists from Nari. For the first time since the invasion, Hannah saw a path to victory. Her team had grown. Dongmin now led a network of hidden medics who could treat resistance fighters. Yuna had established communication with survivor groups on every continent. Other soldiers who had escaped the initial roundups were joining their cause. They had weapons now too. Not alien technology, but human-built devices designed specifically to exploit Veltharan weaknesses. Electromagnetic pulse generators constructed from salvaged electronics. Biological dispersal systems made from modified crop sprayers. Communication jammers built from radio parts. "We have everything we need," Hannah told her team during a secret meeting in an abandoned mine shaft. "The question is timing. How long?" "Before they discover what we're doing?" asked Dongmin. "Not long," Hannah admitted. "Their security is getting tighter. They're starting to suspect something. Then we move soon," said Yuna, "before they figure it out." Hannah nodded. Around the world, similar conversations were happening in hidden caves, abandoned buildings, and secret bunkers. The Resistance was ready. The Veltharans still thought they were in complete control. They still treated humans like simple animals. They still believed their technology made them invincible. They had no idea that their slaves had been watching. Learning and preparing for 8 long months, the aliens had made their third mistake, had given humanity time to think. Soon, they would discover what human beings could accomplish when they had nothing left to lose and everything to fight. 4. The silent preparation was almost complete. The attack began at exactly midnight on a Tuesday. Captain Hannah had chosen the time carefully. The Veltharans changed their guard shifts then, creating a brief window of confusion across all their installations. In the research facility, Dr. Seung-min activated his biological weapon for the first time. He had spent weeks preparing the perfect delivery system. Small device hidden inside, ventilation unit that would spray microscopic droplets into the air recycling system. The device turned on silently. Invisible clouds of Earth bacteria began flowing through the alien facility. The bacteria had been modified to survive in the alien's sterile environment. More importantly, they carried the specific electromagnetic signature that would disrupt Veltharan immune systems. Within hours, the first guards began showing symptoms. Red patches appeared on their scales. Their breathing became labored. Some collapsed at their posts, writhing in pain as their bodies fought a war they could not win. The facility's medical systems detected the illness but could not identify the cause. The Veltharans assumed it was another outbreak of the mysterious Earth sickness that had been plaguing their forces for months. They had no idea they were under attack. At Camp 7, Min-young struck at the same moment. She had been waiting for the perfect opportunity. And it came during the monthly feast, when all the high-ranking Veltharans gathered to eat their most sacred foods. The contaminated meal looked exactly like their normal cuisine. The alien testing equipment found nothing wrong with it. But hidden inside were billions of Earth's microorganisms that had been carefully selected and grown for this moment. The alien commanders ate with their usual arrogance, never suspecting that their human cook had just declared war on their entire species. Within 6 hours, every Veltharan leader in the camp was dead or dying. Their immune systems had completely collapsed. Their advanced medical technology was useless against diseases that had evolved on Earth for millions of years. In the communication center, Biorum launched her cyber attack. With a few keystrokes, she released the viruses she had been hiding in the Veltharan network for months. The aliens' quantum computers began receiving false information. Their security systems started reporting that everything was normal, while actual sabotage spread throughout their installations. Their communication arrays began broadcasting human resistance codes instead of alien commands. Most importantly, Borum took control of their orbital defense satellites. The same weapons that had kept Earth trapped were now under human command. Phase 1 complete, she whispered into her hidden transmitter. The sky belongs to us now. At that same moment, Engineer Woo-jin activated the explosive charges he had been placing for months. Not random destruction, but precise strikes at critical power distribution nodes. The Veltharan defense grid went dark across half the planet. Emergency backup systems came online, but they were running on partial power. The aliens' greatest strength had become their greatest weakness in a single moment. Admiral Kung Ho had been secretly coordinating with the resistance from within the Veltharan administrative structure. When the power grid failed, he was ready. Hidden electromagnetic pulse devices, built by human engineers and disguised as regular equipment, activated throughout the alien complexes. The EMP blast disabled every piece of Veltharan technology within miles. Suddenly, the invincible aliens found themselves blind, deaf, and defenseless. In the mountains, Captain Hannah led the first open assault on a Veltharan position in 9 months. Her fighters moved like ghosts through the darkness, carrying weapons designed specifically to kill their former masters. The electromagnetic rifles fired pulses that disrupted Veltharan nervous systems. The biological grenades released clouds of Earth bacteria that ate through their protective gear. The sonic weapons produced frequencies that caused their scales to crack and bleed. For the first time since the invasion, humans were hunting Veltharans. The aliens had expected their human slaves to fight like primitive warriors with crude weapons. Instead, they faced an enemy that understood their weaknesses better than they understood themselves. Veltharan soldiers who had seemed invincible just hours before now died, screaming as Earth diseases consumed their bodies from the inside. Their advanced armor became death traps when human EMP weapons fried the electronics. Their energy shields failed when humans attacked with frequencies they had never encountered. Around the world, similar attacks struck every major Veltharan installation. The Resistance had spent months identifying the most critical targets and the best times to hit them. Command centers went dark. Supply depots exploded. Communication. Arrays broadcast human victory messages across the alien empire. The occupying forces found themselves cut off from their leadership and their homeworlds in Seoul. The main Veltharan command ship tried to launch a counterattack, but Boyerm had already taken control of their flight systems. Instead of rising into the sky, the massive vessel crashed into the ground, killing hundreds of aliens and destroying their primary command center. The psychological impact was devastating. The Veltharans had built their empire on the belief that they were superior to all other species. Seeing their flagship destroyed by primitive humans shattered their confidence completely. Panic spread through the alien ranks. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Commanders issued contradictory orders. Some Veltharans tried to surrender, but the Resistance was not interested in prisoners. Dr. Sungman's biological weapon continued to spread through the alien population. Every breath they took brought more Earth bacteria into their bodies. Every surface they touched was contaminated with microorganisms that their immune systems could not fight. The aliens tried to retreat to their ships, but it was too late. The infection had already spread to their supposedly sterile environments. Their own recycling systems were carrying death to every corner of their vessels. Commander Nari, still working in the administrative center, watched the alien leadership structure collapse in real time. Orders stopped coming from the high command. Regional commanders began making desperate attempts to contact their home worlds, but the communication systems were under human control now. Every message the aliens tried to send was intercepted, blocked, or replaced with human propaganda. The Resistance had not just launched an attack, they had cut the Veltharans off from everything that made them strong. Their technology, their leadership, their connection to their empire, even their own biology had been turned against them. In less than 48 hours, the situation on Earth had completely reversed. The masters had become the hunted. The slaves had become the predators. But this was only the beginning. UNA's communication. Networks carried news of the victory to resistance cells across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, other enslaved species received the same message. The Veltharans could be beaten. Humans had shown them how. As reports of rebellion began flooding in from across the empire, surviving Veltharan commanders realized the magnitude of their error. They had not just underestimated one primitive species. They had awakened something that would destroy everything they had built. The first strike was over. The hunt was just beginning. 3 days after the first strike, The Veltheran Empire was collapsing faster than anyone had imagined possible. What the aliens had built over centuries was crumbling in mere hours. Dr. Sungmin stood in his laboratory, no longer a prisoner, but a weapon maker for humanity's war machine. The biological plague he had created was spreading through the Veltheran population like wildfire. The aliens had tried everything to stop it. They burned infected areas. They sealed themselves in sterile chambers, even destroyed some of their own ships to prevent the disease from spreading. Nothing worked. Their medical technology is useless, Sungmin explained to Captain Hannah. During their first face-to-face meeting since the invasion, they can cure diseases from their own world, but Earth bacteria work completely differently. It's like trying to fix a car with medical tools. The plague had evolved beyond Sungmin's original design. The bacteria were adapting faster than the aliens could understand them. Each generation became more deadly, more resistant to Veltheran treatments. How long do we have before they adapt? Hannah asked. They won't adapt, Sungmin said with cold certainty. Their immune systems are too specialized, too perfect. They lost the ability to fight unknown diseases millions of years ago. Meanwhile, Commander Tyke emerged from hiding to lead the largest human military force assembled since the invasion. Thousands of former soldiers, police officers, and ordinary citizens who had learned to fight were joining his ranks every day. The Veltherans had made their weapons ineffective through technology, but humans had found new ways to kill. Electromagnetic weapons that disrupted alien nervous systems. Sonic devices that shattered their scales. Chemical sprays that ate through their breathing equipment. Most importantly, humans fought with a rage that the aliens could not understand or counter. At the Battle of Busan, Tyke's forces surrounded a major Veltheran stronghold. The aliens still had superior weapons, but their numbers were dwindling rapidly due to the plague. Worse, their confidence was completely broken. They're fighting scared, reported Jae-won, who had become one of Tyke's best squad leaders. Keep looking over their shoulders. They flinch when they see us coming. The psychological warfare was as effective as the biological weapons. The Veltherans had built their empire on fear and overwhelming force. Now they were the ones who were afraid. During the siege, Yuna intercepted alien communications that revealed the true extent of their collapse. Rebellion was spreading across every world in their empire. Species that had been enslaved for generations were rising up, inspired by humanity's example. The Drakmari system has gone dark, she reported. No Veltheran signals for 6 hours. About the Centauri colonies? Hannah asked. It's fighting on 3 worlds. The locals are using our biological warfare techniques. The news got better every hour. The Veltheran Empire, which had seemed invincible just a week ago, was being torn apart by the very species it had enslaved. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source. Belram had spent days exploring the captured Veltheran computer networks. She discovered something that changed the entire nature of the war. They're not actually from another galaxy, she announced during a resistance leadership meeting. They're from Earth. The room fell silent. That's impossible, said Admiral Kung-ho. No, it's true, Bioram continued, displaying alien records on a captured Veltheran screen. They evolved here millions of years ago, during the age of dinosaurs. They left Earth when the asteroid hit, and have been conquering other worlds ever since. They came back to reclaim their original home. That's why they know so much about our planet. That's why they're so vulnerable to Earth's diseases. This is where they came from. The revelation filled the human fighters with even greater fury. The Veltherans were not alien invaders. They were traitors who had abandoned their own world and returned as conquerors. They left when things got difficult, Hannah said, her voice cold with anger. Now they want to steal what we built while they were gone. The war became more personal after that. This was not just about human freedom. It was about who deserved to inherit Earth, as the tide turned decisively in humanity's favor. The surviving Veltheran commanders made increasingly desperate decisions. Some tried to negotiate surrender. Others attempted to destroy human cities. Out of spite, none of their strategies worked. The humans who tried to negotiate were turned away without discussion. The resistance had no interest in mercy or compromise. The aliens who tried to destroy cities found their weapons turned against them. Biorum's control of their systems was complete. Every missile they fired exploded in their own launch tubes. Every energy weapon they activated melted their own equipment. Admiral Kyung-ho, now commanding a fleet of captured Veltheron ships, pursued the aliens who tried to flee Earth's atmosphere. The same defense grid that had once trapped humanity now prevented any Veltheron escape. Wanted to turn Earth into a prison, Kyung-ho announced over the Resistance communication network. Now they're the ones locked inside. The final major battle took place at the primary Veltheron command center in what used to be New York. The facility was built inside their largest ship, a massive vessel that had served as the alien seat of power for 9 months. Captain Hannah led the assault personally. Her forces moved through the ship's corridors like a plague of death, killing every alien they encountered. The Veltherans tried to use their superior technology, but human electromagnetic weapons disabled their equipment faster than they could activated. The alien commanders were found in their control room, already dying from Sungmin's biological weapon. Their scales were falling off in bloody chunks. Their breathing was labored and painful. Some were too weak to stand. "Please," gasped the Veltheron Supreme Commander through his translator device. "We can negotiate. We can share the planet. We can, double quotes. Hannah raised her electromagnetic rifle and fired. The alien's body convulsed once and then went still. Negotiation. Time ended 9 months ago, she said to his corpse. Similar scenes played out across the world. Every major Veltheron installation was overrun. Every alien command center was destroyed. Every symbol of their occupation was torn down and burned. The biological plague continued its work among the survivors. Veltheran bodies were found in their ships, in their bunkers, even in their sealed medical facilities. The disease had found them everywhere. Within 2 weeks of the first strike, organized Veltheran resistance on Earth had ended completely. The few survivors were hiding in remote locations, slowly dying of diseases their bodies could not fight. But humanity was not satisfied with just reclaiming. Borum had extracted the locations of every Veltheran colony and military base from their computer networks. Yuna had established communication with rebel groups across their empire. Admiral Kyung-ho had a fleet of captured alien warships. "The war isn't over," Hannah announced to the assembled resistance leaders. "Beginning? What do you mean?" asked Tyke. "They came to our world to demonstrate what conquest looks like," Hannah replied. "Now we're going to visit their worlds and demonstrate what eradication looks like." The tide had not just turned. It had become a tsunami that would sweep across the galaxy, carrying human vengeance to every corner of the former Veltheran Empire. The hunters had become the hunted, and the hunt was about to expand beyond anything the universe had ever seen. 2 years after the liberation of Earth, the last Veltheran colony in the Outer Rim sent a desperate message across the galaxy. It was a plea for mercy that would never be answered. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel that had once belonged to the Veltheron Supreme Fleet. Now it carried human crew members and weapons designed for one purpose: the complete extinction of an entire species. "Final scan complete," reported Biorum from her position at the tactical station. "No Veltheran signatures remaining on the planet's surface, no ships in orbit, no space stations or hidden facilities. What about the underground bunkers?" Kyung-ho asked. "Sterilized with biological agents 6 hours ago," she replied without emotion. "Nothing alive down there anymore." Through the view screen, the planet below looked peaceful. Green forests, blue oceans, white clouds. It was a beautiful world that had been home to billions of Veltherans just months ago. Now it was empty. Dr. Sungmin had perfected his biological weapons over the past 2 years. What started as a desperate attempt to save Earth had evolved into the most efficient killing system ever created. The diseases he designed were now specifically tailored to Veltheran genetics, spreading faster than any natural plague and leaving no survivors. "Planetary sterilization confirmed," Sungmin announced from the science station. "All Veltheran genetic material has been eliminated. Native ecosystem is undamaged." This had been the pattern across the galaxy. Human fleets would arrive at Veltheron worlds, carrying the promise of total destruction. Some colonies tried to fight. Others attempted to surrender. Few even offered to serve humanity as the humans had once served them. None of it mattered, Captain. Hannah, now commanding her own battle group, had developed the doctrine that all human forces followed. No negotiations, no prisoners, no mercy. Complete eradication of every Veltheran in the galaxy. They wanted to show us what conquest looked like, she had explained to the other human commanders. We're showing them what extinction looks like. The war had spread far beyond what anyone had imagined. Other species that had been enslaved by the Veltharans joined the human cause, providing information about alien installations and supply routes. Some fought alongside human forces. Others simply stepped aside and watched as humanity burned the Veltheran Empire to ash. But it was humans who led the charge everywhere. Humans who developed the most effective weapons. Humans who showed no hesitation in wiping out entire populations. The galaxy learned to fear them. Una. Coordinated intelligence gathering across hundreds of worlds. Her network had grown to include rebel groups, former slaves, and even some non-Veltheran species who had supported the Empire. Everyone wanted to help hunt down the remaining aliens. The last confirmed Veltheran stronghold is at Alpha Centauri, she reported during the final strategy meeting. Approximately 50,000 survivors. They've been building defenses for months. Defenses won't help them, said Commander Nari, who now served as head of human military intelligence. Nothing has helped any of them. It was true. The Veltherans had tried everything. They built underground cities that humans filled with poison gas. They created space stations that human hackers turned into death traps. They even attempted to modify their own biology to resist Earth's diseases. But Sungmin adapted his weapons faster than they could evolve. The most desperate Veltherans had tried to use their most powerful weapons against human worlds, planet-killing devices that could destroy entire solar systems. But BORAM's cyber warfare capabilities had advanced far beyond what any alien technology could counter. Every weapon they tried to use was turned against them. Some Veltheran groups had attempted to flee to other galaxies, hoping to escape human vengeance. But humanity had captured their entire fleet, including ships capable of intergalactic travel. There was nowhere in the universe they could hide. The Alpha Centauri facility will be their last stand, Kyung-ho said. After that, the species is extinct. Good, replied Hannah. Her voice carried no satisfaction, only cold determination. They made their choice 9 months into the occupation. We're just finishing what they started. The final battle was anticlimactic. The Veltheran survivors at Alpha Centauri had indeed built impressive defenses. Force fields, automated weapons, underground bunkers designed to withstand any attack. But they had learned nothing from their defeats. Bioram took control of their defense systems within hours. Their own weapons began firing on their positions. Their force fields collapsed. Their bunkers became sealed tombs filled with biological agents. The last Veltheran Supreme Commander died the same way the first one had, begging for mercy that would never come. When the shooting stopped, Dr. Sungmin conducted a final genetic scan of the facility. No Veltheran DNA remained anywhere. The species that had once ruled a galactic empire was gone forever. Eradication complete, he announced. But humanity's work was not finished. Over the following months, human search teams scoured every world that had ever been part of the Veltheran Empire. They hunted through abandoned colonies, derelict space stations, and hidden research facilities. Every trace of Veltheran technology was studied and then destroyed. Every genetic sample was eliminated. Every cultural artifact was burned. They even destroyed the aliens' home world, the planet where they had evolved millions of years before coming to Earth. Bioram guided massive asteroid impacts into the surface until nothing remained but molten rock and radioactive dust. Why destroy an empty planet? Asked Dongmin, who had become head of the human medical corps. Because it was theirs, Hannah replied. Because someone might find it someday and think they were worth remembering. Would remember them, but not as conquerors. They would be remembered as a cautionary tale about what happened when you mistook human restraint for weakness. The other species in the galaxy watched humanity's campaign with a mixture of awe and terror. Some offered alliance and friendship. Others quickly distanced themselves from anything that might anger the new apex predators. Humanity accepted both responses with equal indifference. They had learned that the universe was a dangerous place filled with species that would enslave or destroy anyone they considered weak. That would never happen again. Captain Hannah, now promoted to Supreme Admiral of the Human Defense Force, established the new doctrine that would guide humanity's interactions with all alien species. "We will not conquer other worlds," she declared in her address to the Galactic Council. "We will not enslave other species, will not demand tribute or submission. But we will never again tolerate any threat to human independence. Any species that attacks humanity, enslaves humans, or attempts to treat us as inferior will face the same fate as the Veltherans. Complete and total eradication. No negotiations, no mercy, no survivors." The message was clear. Humanity would coexist peacefully with any species that respected their sovereignty, but any species that threatened them would simply cease to exist. In the years that followed, the galaxy became remarkably peaceful. Trade flourished between worlds. Scientific cooperation advanced rapidly. Conflicts between species were resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. Everyone had learned the lesson that the Veltherans died to teach in a hidden archive on Earth. The complete genetic code of the Veltheran species was preserved in a quantum storage device, not as a backup or a way to restore them, but as proof that they had once existed. Dr. Sungmin visited the archive sometimes, looking at the data that represented an entire intelligent species. "Do you ever regret it?" asked Bioram during one of these visits. "Regret what?" Sungmin replied. "Wiping out an entire species. Billions of intelligent beings who will never exist again." Sungmin considered the question carefully. "They made their choice when they came to Earth," he said finally. "They wanted to demonstrate what complete domination looked like. We simply accepted their terms and applied them more effectively than they could." "They believed they were our masters," Boram said, reading the inscription on the storage device, "till we demonstrated what eradication truly is." "Exactly," Sungmin replied. "They taught us that in this universe, there are only predators and prey. They chose to be predators. We chose to be better predators." The archive would remain as humanity's reminder to itself and warning to others. In a galaxy full of dangerous species, humans had proven themselves to be the most dangerous of all, not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they were the most thorough. When humanity decided that something needed to be eradicated, it stayed eradicated.